Hey guys, haven't made a forging video in like forever, and today I need to make some hammer hooks. And basically what they are is these are made from 5/16 round stock. You can get this actually Tractor Supply, Home Depot, Lowe's, and then you forge them into the shape that you want. This one I flattened out, making a couple of different designs. And by the way, these are not painted. They are quenched in used engine oil. And the finish holds up pretty well. And what you do with these is, I don't have a piece of scrap wood, and I've already had this one in here, but you hammer them into wherever you need them, in a post, a beam, a wall, you know, as long as you've got the thickness to support the nail portion, which you can make as short or as long as you want, you know, depending on your needs. And then you've got a hook that holds quite a bit of weight. And when it's time to change the location, just turn it. It's a lot easier in softwood like pine, hemlock, fir. You just turn this around, pry it out, and your hook is intact and ready to move somewhere else. So I'm going to show you real quick how I make these. They're good for tack, for hanging buckets, if you're making some kind of kitchen hanger for pots and pans and coffee mugs or whatever. You know, you probably wouldn't put this hook on it. You might just bring it up like this and leave it at that. But let me show you how I do this. As I said, I start off with a piece of 5/16 round stock. You can use square, anything, you know, that fits the size that you want. And I use 8-inch, and that gives you a medium size hook when it's all said and done. And then I'll cut that off. Turn down your headphones. You could also just put this in your forge and then just cut it with a Hardy on your anvil if you want. So yeah, there's really not a lot of prep. We're going to heat this up and we'll start drawing this out to the point for the portion that gets hammered into the wood. So now we're going to start drawing this out to the point. And I like to make my point square. Or the material leading up to the point square anyway. And it's so thin it loses heat pretty fast. So, and hammering on black iron is the devil's work, or so my farrier instructor told me. And I will tell you, I'm not terribly concerned about hammer marks on this. I actually want it to look like it's been hand forged. So I need it to look like it's been beat up, and that's super easy to accomplish. Just don't care about your hammer blows. So we're going to refine our point just a little bit more, especially if this is going into hardwood. The sharper your point, the easier it is to drive, of course. Again, I'm going for a rustic look. Last thing I want is to make it look like it was made on a machine. You know, as some may dispute, though, that I'm kind of a machine. Alright, so now that we have this heated again, I like to make my bend on a flat surface. And adjust as necessary to get it, you know, the way that you want it. And what I strive for is a pretty nice 90-degree bend, so that, you know, it just looks like you've got some kind of craftsmanship going on. And for the average person, it's going to be fine. So there's our 90-degree bend. And what you want to do is when you make your bend for the actual hook, you want to make sure that you leave enough room so that this can be hammered in to wherever they decide to mount it. Okay, and as I said, you want to make sure that you leave enough room so that you can hammer into the spike portion. So we'll use the Bic to make our first curve. And like I said before, you can get as fancy with this as you want. Alright, so we're on our next heat. And I want to make this a nice smooth curve. And I kind of got ahead of myself. I kind of wanted to put a bend on this, so because unless I wanted to straighten this back out, I can't get in there anymore with a hammer. So what I'm going to do is get this really hot, and then I'm going to use a pair of pliers and I'm going to spin this tip around to put a little outside curve on it, so to speak. Alright, so we'll see how this goes. So I wind up having to straighten it out a little bit anyway. And I should have kept my other tongs. Definitely should have kept my other tongs. Now, if you really wanted to make this pretty, you would draw this point here out, or this end of it, which would make it thin enough to put a nice fine curve into it. Okay, but this is pretty much exactly what I was looking for. And one more heat and this will be about done. Alright, so this should be our last heat. And basically this heat is just to kind of clean things up and, you know, make it symmetrical and pretty and all that. These are really good for, like I said, horse tack, garden hoses. You know, you're going to have to make it bigger for a garden hose. Extension cords, hanging plants. So yeah, that's about it. I like the way this one came out. I'm trying to make several different varieties and sell them as a package on my my website. So people have an option to what they want to use. So we're going to heat it up one last time and then we're going to quench it. So what I found best, for me anyway, is to get the metal magnetic hot, which means that a magnet no longer sticks to it. Well, right there at the tip it is, so I have to get this a little hotter. But I'm going to put it back in the forge, and my real concern is this area here. So it's cooling down. Now it's starting to become magnetic again. But magnetic hot basically means that when the metal is at a temperature of the proper degree, a magnet will no longer stick to it. So you can see as it's cooling down, it's getting magnetic again. So we're going to put it back in the forge, get it back to what I call magnetic hot, and then we're going to quench it. Okay, so we're just a little bit above magnetic hot because I knew it was going to cool down before I could start the video again. But this is my used engine oil quench. And what I'm looking for is the point to be the hardest spot, but the rest of it not so hard that it shatters when somebody tries to nail it into their post, beam, wall, whatever. And I found about this used engine oil long time ago. I was making hoof picks out of used horseshoes, and I quenched one of them one day in some used oil that I had lying around, and it came out this pretty nice looking black finish. So I tested it, and it's actually pretty darn durable because the oil bakes onto the metal and it lasts a long time. I actually have a hoof pick that I made, no joke, probably like 5 or 6 years ago that I use, I'm not going to say every day, but fairly regularly, that still looks as good as it did the day that I made it. Yeah, it's a little messy, but I think the results are definitely worth it. So here we are, and we have our hammer hook, and like I said, this was basically for, I don't want to say video purposes. This is going to be part of the bundle that I'm going to have online for sale. But these are really cool. People seem to like them. You can nail them in, spin them, pull them out if you don't mind the hole in whatever, you know, you're nailing them into. And you can move them somewhere else. You don't have to worry about a screwdriver, a screw gun, hammer and nails, or anything like that. And these actually work pretty darn well. So guys, there it is. This is a very humble one. If you wanted to put a nice flower curve in here, you would just draw this out, make it thinner, and do your curve. You can make this as big as you want, as small as you want. But like I said, I started with an 8-inch piece of metal. I drew it out for the hanging spike, and yeah, this one's ready to go. So guys, I know it's pretty elementary, but people really seem to like these. So y'all have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Take care now.